morning. This is Gaming Perspectives with
Saul
and Jolene. And today we're talking about AI writing adventures for RPGs.
Among other things you can do with AIs, yes. I think specifically I was thinking about Chat GPT.
Yes.
GPT. And what's amazing is that this thing's they started up in November of 2022. But there had been other incarnations of it because they called it Chat AI GPT-3 or something like that, which was like just information gathering, I think. People were asking it things and it would sort of talk to you. And then they changed it fundamentally how it worked in November. And then they opened it up for people to come chat with our chat bot, right?
I guess.
Or AI even. It's not just a chat bot. So it was interesting. I kind of ignored that whole thing, but it's kept coming up in RPG circles and other areas. And they're talking about what impact this chat AI could do for the industry or just people who play role-playing games.
It's kind of deja vu because I thought we talked about AI like just a couple of weeks ago.
We did. And we talked about AI and art in RPGs.
Ah, okay.
But this is a little bit different. I think there's some things that you could do with the AI that people have been, what is it? Things that people think that would AI chat would be good for.
Yes. So when I was looking it up, I discovered that you can write an adventure with Chat GPT.
Right.
There's also some other ones because some other guy said he didn't like that one. He liked Novel AI, which is another AI.
Writes novels?
I assume so because that's what it sounded like. Because he said you could get more flavor out of it when you put in the information.
Well, I think the AI Chat GPT, anyway, I did try it out, and it was kind of interesting because we saw some other guy trying it out online.
Yeah, we watched a few YouTube videos on YouTube, which I thought were very interesting. And at first, I'm pretty much not really. I don't want to say too much about it. Well, yeah, but I don't want him to hear me say that.
The AI overlords.
Or her hear me say that.
So paranoid.
It was very interesting watching the guy go through the process. He was explaining how you could do it, right? How to write an adventure. So he asked questions. He told him what he wanted to do. I don't know why I think of the AI as a him, but anyway.
Because they're evil. Okay, so I was thinking the first thing that you could do is like bounce ideas off this chat bot because it literally you chat. I mean, it looks like a chat box, like you would like message or messenger, like in Facebook with a friend or friends or whatever. And you basically say, "I have this idea for an adventure," like to bounce ideas off of. I have an idea of this adventure. Like, what do you think of this? And you put whatever you want. Whatever adventure.
He said, I would like to have an adventure, a classic fantasy D&D adventure.
Oh, right.
And he didn't want to tell it too much because he was trying to get it to spit out stuff, right?
Correct. He was instead of being very narrow as to what he wanted in the adventure or what he wanted to see, he left it open to the AI to figure out what to come up with. And I thought it was very interesting because I kind of did the same thing with a different set of rules or different idea in mind. And like I said, at first I can see this thing as great for bouncing ideas off. It's like bouncing ideas off somebody that you know. And in this case, they have quite a bit of a wealth of knowledge, right?
And since you usually don't want to bounce ideas off for your games on the people that you play the games with, it's probably nice to have a artificial intelligence to talk to because they can give you some ideas. I'm not sure where they get the ideas, but that's okay.
Anyway, so then on top of that, I mean, advancing that idea further, other than just bouncing your ideas off of like a springboard, like they'll answer you about what they think or however they think. You can start making it an adventure. And the person we saw on YouTube, he was doing a classic fantasy adventure. And I forget, what was the first answer he had? Was it very vague or was it very... Oh, he came out with a campaign, right?
The AI spit out this whole idea. You start out at a village. He said just a classic idea. So it spit out a topic. You go to a village and you meet the villagers and
They have a goblin problem, right?
yes, a goblin problem.
And
the AI said then you have to go to the city where the king is, or no, it wasn't the king, but he put the person in charge of the goblins in a city.
I think it was a wizard or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he basically gives them a campaign synopsis that the adventurers will try to figure out what this evil wizard is doing. This evil wizard is trying to get these artifacts to make this thing that'll control the world or whatever and make them ultra powerful. And it's this really long, it would be a long, convoluted campaign.
So then he changed it to, I would like it to be the Goblin King to be in the forest or next to them, right? To be closer. Or he didn't specifically say the forest. But then he said, I would like it to be in 3 chapters or something, or 3 acts.
Yeah, the classic structure.
Then it spit out 3 acts, right? And then he narrowed it down a little bit more.
Yeah, because the 3 acts were they weren't very...
They were pretty good the second time when he did it.
The first one was kind of hokey because he goes, well, you meet the villagers and you get this job to prevent the...
See, the AI has the same problem everybody does, the hook, right? How do you hook the player?
He just told you what the hook was. He goes, the elder needs help with these goblins that are attacking. And then you go to the forest where the goblins are and they're being taken care of or being controlled by this wizard or sorcerer. I think it said sorcerer. And then you have to go and defeat the sorcerer. And that was the 3 acts or something along those lines, right? Very simple, very straightforward. But the creator, the person that was doing this, kept changing what he wanted in a chat box. And it was literally a chat box. And it keeps the thing is, it keeps everything just like everything else, just like most chat boxes, I should say. What you said previously just scrolls up, so you could always scroll back and see what it said.
But he did say that if you do use the chat AI or Chat GPT, that before you close out or you close the window, you need to make sure you save all the stuff if you want to use it, because copy and paste it to a Word document or something.
Right.
Because it'll disappear, and the AI and Chat GPT won't remember the conversation once you close off.
Right. Oh, they don't give you access. I'm sure it remembers the conversation.
I misspoke, because I'm sure it doesn't forget its conversations, but it won't give it back to you the same way.
Yeah, the idea is that it will just disappear and then you have to start from scratch.
So that guy was actually, showing you how you could use it to write an adventure, right?
Right.
Or a campaign or whatever you want to write. One of the other videos that we watched was a guy saying, well, okay, your friends surprised you. They want to play right now and you need an idea quick. Was it Chat GPT that he used?
I don't know.
But he just goes, okay, this is what I want. And he just told it 2 sentences. And he goes, okay, and just make it 2 paragraphs. It's just to have an idea, right? And I forget what his words were that he put in exactly. But he got out 2 paragraphs and he goes, okay, now, please describe for me it was a warren, like a goblin warren or something. And he goes, this is how you can get a verbal
description
of a dungeon by saying this, right? So then it spits out something, right? How many rooms there are,
right?
All this different thing.
Oh, really? I don't remember seeing that.
But he only had you were reading. Oh. He only had 2 paragraphs, and he goes, so if you need to think of something on the fly and you're stunned that all of a sudden they want to play with you and you can't think of what you want to run, then you could stick it into your phone and get a couple paragraphs to give you an idea.
Phone even, yeah. I know. I tried using my tablet at first and it wasn't working, but I used my computer and it worked pretty decently. I was kind of surprised how well it worked. And what's funny is I tried the same thing, create an adventure for my Bladerunner game. Mm-hmm. RPG. And what was funny was I put in just real basic stuff about Bladerunner. It's an RPG. I want 3 or 4 players, an adventure. So it spit out this kind of like the first guy, this kind of high arc thing. And I wanted a moral dilemma. That's what I put in there. So it spit out this thing about the replicants murdered a bunch of people and they were part of this. I don't think he called it a conspiracy. You're right. I have to reverse the AI as he. The AI referred to like not a conspiracy, but something like that, where they're trying to have the replicants take over the world.
Wow.
Right? And then it goes on. It says, so if the players finally catch up to them and they have to decide whether they want to bring these replicants in, retire them, kill them, or join their side. So I wrote to the chat. I go, I don't think humans would want the replicants to take over the world. And he goes, you're right. Right? It was funny. He goes, you're right. But he kind of said the same thing. He kind of, the AI is kind of not closed-minded, but it likes sticking to its guns in a certain sense.
I think that what it is the data that it has to
Right.
use to draw upon, right?
Right.
So if you say, I want a classic adventure, a classic fantasy adventure, it has an idea of what a classic D&D fantasy adventure is, right? I think Bladerunner has less data to draw from.
I would think so.
So, but the fact that he wanted the replicants to take over the world, which in Blade Runner is like, that's not going to work. Because you got to kill all those replicants if they want to take over the world. Or, I'm sorry, retire them.
No, the replicants want to take over the world, so
Yeah.
they'll have to take over
So
the
the Blade
humans.
Runners would have to.
Oh, the Blade Runners. Yeah. So another thing is that I at one point it said, well, who would they kill? Why would they murder people? And it goes, well, they would murder people who stood in their way, right? And then I'm like, okay. And I pressed it for more information about the
Okay,
who.
I'm concerned that the AI could give you this information.
Oh, no, it was just general stuff. And then it starts talking about, well, it would probably go after corporate people who are in charge of who oppress the replicants, political people, people in power, like
You're
police
teaching this
people.
AI way too much stuff.
I guess it was weird, really weird. And then, but then I go, okay, give me details on who these replicants would attack, and it gave me the same thing. It gave me the same list, and then I go, give me more details, right? And then it said it did it again. It almost exactly the same about just the
Right.
people in power, blah blah blah. And I go, can you give me vital statistics of each person? So then it gave me names and their age and their occupation. And that's what I was looking for, right?
Right.
That would flesh out my idea
Right.
of who these people were. And I thought it was kind of interesting that it took me like 3 or 4 questions.
Well, it is a chat
Yes.
AI, right? So it's trying to do it has its idea of what it wants, right? And then you're asking it to change it. It's very politely changing it for you, but it doesn't want to change it too much.
And that's what it felt to me like a very snarky AI because because I said, well, can you give me more details? And so all it did was just gave me more of the same.
Right.
And I'm like, okay. And
that was you asking the wrong question.
Right.
Because when I was reading about it, and I went on to, I guess it's probably Reddit, and there's a whole article, and it says this is even before Chat GPT, right? This is OpenAI, and different ones
Right.
that these people use.
Right.
They ask all kinds of questions. Like one guy asked, generate a powerful magical amulet for Dungeons and Dragons, and then he gets this paragraph answer, and
Right.
it's adds +3 to your armor class and all kinds of different things, right? Which I thought was very interesting. And then he wanted it to generate a backstory for the amulet, and so it gives them this idea. So if you have an idea, but you're like you're stuck. What do I want?
Details.
Yeah. What do
Yeah.
I want? It was sometimes it's nice to have somebody to bounce ideas off.
Yeah.
of.
And that's what I thought was really intriguing because, like in this case, I kind of had I didn't have an idea. I just let it up I just let the AI do this. But I go, oh, that's an interesting idea. But I kept insisting. I go, but would humans really side with the AIs in this
So
case?
instead of saying, but would humans, you should have said, humans would not side with the replicants in this particular adventure. Can you please write it that way? Or change it to do this? And then at least when the guy that I was watching doing the Chat GPT, that's what he did. He said you have to be very specific because the AI has an idea and it's going to keep going with its idea unless you specifically tell it to.
I found that because I kept saying, would humans ever make that decision? And he goes, good point. right?
Right.
And then it would say something. So that's part of the moral quandary. Would they side with this group that has been oppressed and has all these things against them, and support their takeover of the world over humans? And I'm like,
well, I know when me and Felipe and Mike played in your Blade Runner game, and Blade Runner is one of those games, right, where everything's a moral dilemma. Because, you're chasing after these poor replicants who have gone totally nuts because something's wrong with their programming, right? In the end, what did Mike and I go, okay, we'll get on the bus to the other colony with the AI and go.
Oh, you were an AI.
I was, yeah.
But Mike wasn't, was he?
I was a replicant, not an AI.
I mean, that's what
No, Mike was human.
Yes.
Well, it was a quandary for me playing it because I'm like, man, these people are mean to us, right? As a replicant.
Right.
But as a replicant, do you think that? I mean, what is...
You're programmed to serve.
It's a very hard moral quandaries throughout that whole game.
Well, I could see, I don't think it viewed the Blade Runners as being replicants because it kept saying, that they're human and they would blah, blah, blah. And I could, and if I had put in the information that
there were two Blade Runners that were replicants.
Right. And I think you're right. I think you have to be very specific or change the way you ask the question. Because I kept asking the question.
Well, you kept asking it the same way you asked me questions.
Can you give me can you give me more details? And it would just give me a longer list of who executives were, who politicians were. When I wanted vital statistics and when I said vital statistics, that's when it spit out the names. And I go, okay, this is what I want. But you're right. I think you got to be able to change your method of asking questions or direction you want to come from for the chat AI to change its mind.
Because it is an AI. So once it thinks that that's what you want or that it's provided this to you, it's not going to change it until you specifically request it to.
Right.
And in the right way.
And so I think if I wanted to, I could get a pretty decent outline and a pretty decent list of characters and all.
I think that would. I don't know if I would actually do it because I have my issues with AIs, but I think it would be really cool to be able to generate NPCs that way, right?
Yes.
Because you could describe this NPC to me. This is what I want: a barmaid that blah blah blah.
Right.
And then I also found that. When we started researching it, I was thinking that, okay, so there's a lot of stuff about Dungeons and Dragons out there, but are there other things that it would be able to tell me? I mean, these people did, the articles that I read, they did an adventure for Blades in the Dark.
Okay.
Blades in the Dark.
Yeah, Blades in the Dark.
And then it spit out a traveler campaign.
Wow.
Because it just said, please give me a traveler campaign. And it gave him a traveler campaign, which was very interesting because I was like, wow, that's pretty good. Would you like me to tell you what the plot for the traveler campaign?
Yeah, if you have it on. Yeah.
The plot of the traveler campaign begins on a small backwater planet in the Spinward Marches region of the universe.
Of course.
This world has been forgotten by the major interstellar powers and is largely autonomous. The PCs are sent to the planet by their employer, a powerful interstellar trade organization, to investigate strange rumors of an ancient alien artifact buried beneath the planet's surface. And then it goes on. And
it goes on.
It gives you a whole... It's like 2 more paragraphs that I won't read.
That's pretty cool.
And then it tells you what the PCs see when they get there and all kinds of stuff.
Well, the Traveler has been around for a long time, right? And the Spinward Marches is the area that a lot of people set their adventures in because it is like the frontier, I think. As far as I remember, I don't really know too much Traveler lore as I stayed away from Traveler in the past. I've talked about Traveler and how it was I didn't like the way Traveler's world was. It wasn't space opera enough for me, right? And that's all I'll say about that. But I have been converted to Traveler a little bit because I like the idea of a real simple system.
You didn't like it, I thought, because it didn't have lightsabers.
And laser pistols.
Right. The pistols were actually...
Yeah, that was a big... Although supposedly, according to people who I've talked to since then, say, well, all you got to do is raise the tech level of the adventure or where the world is or whatever they're at. But there you go. There it is. So... Another thing is that I was thinking and has come across people talking about AI is if you could if it could run an adventure for you. And I think presently it's only been around for 4 months, right? In November.
It may not be old enough yet.
No, but it's old enough right now. The way it is set up, it could run you through like a text-based adventure and you being a solo character. Like run me through an RPG adventure, fantasy, and I have a character who is a bard. Can you do that for me? Because you could play with because you could interact and talk to chat with the AI. Mm-hmm. You could do like a text-based adventure. Like I'm thinking like old, like I think what was it called? I forget the name of that game. It was a game that was just purely text-based, and it was at Zorks or something like that. Anyway, there was this old game back in the late 80s, something that was on every computer, even though it wasn't supposed to be on it. Right? It was this text-based game, right? You start off by yourself on a path, and you type in the cardinal points. You just put N, and it will take you to N, and it'll tell you what you see. And then you go on, and there's a cave, and there's a bird, and all this other stuff you could do, right? Very text-based, and this was supposed to be on a university because it's at Hartnell, but every university had it on there, right? Because geeks being geeks, they're gonna get their way, especially in the 80s where nobody
knew what was on there anyway.
Yeah, nobody knew how to find it or anything. So you could definitely run a game like that. Like, give me an adventure where I am this kind of character, and so you could go along and chat with it and run an adventure that way. Now, a group of adventures, I'm not sure that it could do that, except maybe a dungeon crawl, because a dungeon crawl, it doesn't have much to think about. It has the dungeon made, it knows what's in everything, and then it just can describe things to you as you go along. So this idea of an AI DM, which was deemed ludicrous a while ago, I think is not so ludicrous. Like, give it another year of this chat, and of course, there's going to be different iterations of a AI chat or an AI chat box, whatever you want to call it, and it's going to get better and better. I mean, this thing's only been around for like 4 months total. Can you imagine what it's going to know in a year?
I'm not sure. So I remember when the whole kerfuffle with the D&D OGL was going on.
Yes.
Someone was saying that D&D Beyond was going to go to just AI.
Well, it's going to go
DMs.
to online only, right?
They were going to do. Yeah. Someone was saying, and I'm like going, well, that doesn't make any sense because that would be kind of weird. And then after dealing with or watching these people create adventures with Chat GPT, I was like, I don't know that the GM part would work currently, right? Because one, you would be throwing curves at it because players throw curves at their GMs all the time, right? They don't do what you think they're going to do. They're going to come out of the blue and tell you they want to do something totally crazy that you hadn't thought about. So I'm not sure that currently the AI could keep up with that in how it would spit back out what happens, right?
I think I have an anecdote for you that might change your mind. Remember when we played
with the bear trap
organized
Felipe's back?
play,
yeah.
And that GM who was probably a little bit new, right? He probably was not a hugely experienced GM. I don't think he was.
No.
Okay. And then he was dealing with a bunch of, what was it,
crazy
7 of
people.
us?
Yeah.
Or 8 of us? Crazy people. I forget who was in it. It was me, you, your son, Felipe, Bay, Larry,
Chris.
And Chris.
Was Mike there? No, Mike wasn't.
There's 7 of us, and we're all crazy.
They sat down at the table going, we all want to play Gnome. What was it?
Just gnomes. We didn't care what they were. and then there was only because I think we told the story already, but just to reiterate, it was organized play, and we were using the free characters that you can get in organized play, Dungeons and Dragons, Adventures League, and they had only I said short characters. I said gnomes, but there was a couple dwarves, or there was a dwarf, and there was a couple gnomes, and I go, we could all play the same character, and then the GM goes, I don't think that's a good idea. So then Jolene was the first one to break. She goes, I'm not doing that. I'm playing the sorceress. I'm like, fine. And so after she said that, everybody else broke ranks and picked up a bunch of different things, which I think turned out pretty cool.
he had a hard time with all the craziness.
Right.
Felipe, his idea, I just want to have a bear trap on my back.
He goes, why do you want a bear trap on my back? And my brother's answer was, and it confounded him. Confounded him and the GM. And he goes, why do you want a bear trap on your back? He goes, in case the enemy comes behind me, I can just step back and it'll get him. And then he goes, okay, I don't think that's going to work the way you think it's going to work. He goes, are you saying I can't have a bear trap on my back? He goes, no, I'm not saying that. Okay, I'm going to put a bear trap on my back. He goes, okay. And then that was when I figured out that this guy was like, well, he was probably used to playing in a certain way and also being adjudicated a certain way.
Well, because he was doing
Adventures League.
Right. So they have the adventures that they're going to run, and the players run through them, and they want to have a balanced party, and they want to be able to get through this adventure so they can move up and go to the next adventure.
Right, and they're very task oriented type of players. I've talked about organized playing. Not all of them, but a majority are very task oriented. We got to get through this adventure. We want to make sure we have a wizard. We want to make sure we have a cleric. We want to make sure we have a thief or blah blah blah. And all this other stuff, right? So that's why you want the balanced party. And
those people know exactly the right questions to ask the GM, and they roll and they go, okay, I rolled this high. What is that going to tell me, right? And it's like playing a mystery game with people who are seriously want to solve that mystery, and they're going to use everything that they have to do it, right? Right.
So another thing was what it kind of tells you how this GM thought and how he probably played. And how other GMs ran the games is when Bay wanted to get on this little ledge that he was a dwarf and shoot his crossbow from there. I believe it was a crossbow. And then the GM goes, "Why do you want to do that?" And he goes, "Well, when the enemy comes around the corner, I have a little bit of advantage on height." And the GM goes, "You're not going to get any advantage with that." He goes, "Okay, can I still do it?" He goes, "Well, why would you want to do it if it doesn't give you any advantage, any kind of a bonus?"
Because it's cool.
And then Bay said, "Because it's cool." And then he just shrugged his shoulders and goes, "Okay." I'm like, what are you supposed to say to that? And I think the AI chat would be like that.
Right.
And so, and it would definitely be able to run those kind of adventures, which are like, I hate to say it, but they're railroady, right? And they're task oriented. And I say task oriented not in a demeaning way, but in a way that says, okay, to get past this, somebody has to roll this kind of a test or whatever you want to call it. And then you have a whole group of people who are either good at certain things and not good at certain things, obviously. So you would have the thief roll for picking a lock or doing something along those lines. I don't even know if that's even a skill that they have.
I think lock picking is a skill.
Yes. And stuff like that, right? So it's I could see a year from now, at least, a large company investing a lot of money into a chat system that will help them run games easily.
The other problem I see with that is that how would it know? Would you be you'd be playing online, right?
Of course.
But people aren't going to be typing everything in. They're going to be talking into their mic. So it's going to have voice recognition and be able to
voice to text recognition, yeah.
And it's going to have to be able to generate voice also.
Well, yeah.
Which isn't a big thing, yeah.
Google, hey Google. Oops, don't say it too loud. She'll start talking. But exactly that. You can actually talk and it'll go straight to text in that sense. And I don't think that's too much of a leap. I think there you go. I don't think that's too much of a leap at the moment, but in a year from now, I think if people really wanted to make that text to voice and voice to text, that kind of a difference or that kind of a function, I think they could do it. And I could think it's pretty easy. Even now, it's being done. Look at this. She talks and she hears what I say. Even my TV, when I say into my, I want the deadliest catch. Sometimes it doesn't.
That's Comcast, right?
Right. Yeah.
But that's not an AI. That's I don't know what.
How does it recognize?
I have no idea.
How does it recognize?
I don't think it's just your voice. I mean,
it's anybody's voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't understand me when I talk, though. Sometimes.
No.
No.
I do. English is my second language, so
please.
it does kind of like mess up my choices. But I try to talk in this very strange voice to see if I could fool it. Like I said, Give me the deadliest catch, and it'll actually find it anyway. I'm trying to fool the Comcast AI. But anyway, I think it's really possible to envision that kind of AI with a simpler type of, more mechanical type of adventure, dungeons, those kind of adventures. Mystery games, maybe not, because you're asking all kinds of questions and it may not have the answer. And so what it does when it doesn't have that answer, it could make up stuff. I don't know. But anyway, I'm thinking about straightforward adventures that you would find at Adventures League or Pathfinder Society. Easily in a year, you could have a chat box that could talk, run you through those adventures.
I don't know if he's right or not, but at least it was interesting. If you need to write an adventure and you get stumped, you could go to and you don't have anyone to bounce ideas off of. It'll give you someone to bounce ideas off of.
Yeah, and it was interesting because when I asked the AI for vital statistics of these people who the replicas would go after, it gave me names, and it was interesting. It gave me like Maria Hernandez. She was a cop, a veteran, and all this other stuff. I mixed up the names pretty well for the future, I guess, because it's using Bladerunner as background. Now, I wonder what kind of names would come up with a fantasy. Would it come like Grog, the dismembered, or something like that?
Well, it has all the elves' names and goblin names and everything in that it can probably see. So
that's true. It has quite a bit of wealth of data to collate and to use. Yeah. Where, like I said, Bladerunner was a little bit less stuff out there,
right? For it that it could see
and draw from. Yeah, I didn't think about Traveler. I should have thought about Traveler because Traveler has a huge amount of data to collect from.
Well, then there's all kinds of games that have a huge amount of data to collect from, depending on the genre. Like what White Wolf has all kinds.
Oh, yeah, Vampire.
It has all kinds of stuff. So.
Yep.
So there you go. Good luck. This is Gaming Perspectives with
Saul
and Jolene.
You have a good day.